Commissioner Gary Warrens-Joel serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the Department for Adult and Technical Education, Cabinet for Workforce Development. He is responsible for programs, staff, and operations at state-operated vocational education centers and state vocational technical schools. He administers the receipt and accountability for federal funds for department programs and serves as a personnel appointing authority. Subject to board approval, the Commissioner has the authority to enter into various training agreements with other state agencies, business, and industry. He's a retired Navy captain and submariner with career emphasis in administration, education, and training. He serves as Assistant Chief of Staff. He served as Assistant Chief of Staff for the Chief of Naval Technical Training, responsible for policy coordination and management of 6 submarine training schools and 31 technical schools across the nation. Prior to that, he was the director of the Enlisted Submarine School in New London, Connecticut. He was most recently commanding officer and professor of naval science at Tulane University, New Orleans, where he directed the management and marketing of the Reserve Officer Training Program. It's a pleasure to present to you the Commissioner of Adult and Technical Education, Gary Warrens-Joel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parks. By the time you get to this point in the program, there isn't much that hasn't already been said. Dr. Wethington is probably wondering the same thing, but a lot of this, of course, bears repeating anyhow. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to share in the dedication of the Helen Garrett Allied Health Center. In the Kentucky Tech system, this turns out to be one of 9 major construction projects that were approved by the legislature for this biennium. But more importantly, it is one of 2 joint use facilities that we have been planning here in the Commonwealth. Here in Paducah, of course, and also in Middlesboro, where we have an arrangement between the Kentucky Tech system and the Middlesboro Community College. And so what was important about this in terms of how we were going to set it up was that it would set the standard for what we're going to do in the future. Joint projects and joint use projects make so much sense. I know you all have heard those words here in the last few minutes, but I believe it very strongly that what we are able to do is to use the strengths of both the community college to conserve the assets of the Commonwealth, and those are in very austere times, and also to provide a great benefit to the community in training people for jobs in the most efficient way. I recall a meeting about a year ago. I think I had about 4 months under my belt. Dr. O'Hara had about 2 days under his belt. We met up in Frankfurt along with Dr. Parks and Dr. Carr, and we were talking about some of the problems that we had to settle down here and have resolved. One of those, by the way, was a color scheme. And I think when you walk around, you're going to agree they did a great job on that. And we sorted out those problems, but we hadn't attacked the one about how we were going to administer this building. And we weren't really too sure, and we discussed it a little bit. And then Dr. Carr and I said, I think Dr. Parks and Dr. O'Hara can handle that. And they did. They did exactly that. And that was a true partnership. And partnerships aren't easy. You know, they're a lot like marriages. I mean, they require trust. They require understanding of each other's problems and a desire to compromise in some cases, but they also require an awful lot of work, and that's exactly what happened here. So I just want to compliment Dr. O'Hara, Dr. Parks, Secretary Houston, who invested so much of their time in this project, and I also want to recognize the vision of Helen Garrett, because this is truly a partnership in excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for those kind words. Our speaker hardly needs an introduction. Charles Wethington has been president of the University of Kentucky since 1990, and prior to that time, he served as the chancellor of the University of Kentucky Community College System for 9 years. Dr. Wethington is well known throughout Western Kentucky, and he is a longtime friend of Paducah Community College, so there's little need for me to list his background and credentials. What is important to note on this special day is what is happening at and to the University of Kentucky because of Charles Wethington's leadership. In his time in office, this system and this state have seen a dramatic rise in the University of Kentucky's pride in being the university for all of the Commonwealth. This resurgence in awareness that the University of Kentucky is one family devoted to the improvement of educational and economic opportunities for all of Kentucky is a clear reflection of the philosophy that President Wethington brought with him to the lofty office that he now occupies. I'm certain that his years as Chancellor, which carried him to virtually every community in this Commonwealth, fueled his zeal to bring all of us together. Paducah Community College joined the University of Kentucky system in 1968. Since Charles Wethington took office as president, we have become a much fuller partner in that relationship. Allow me to cite just two examples of what has happened to and at Paducah. Last year, President Wethington, true to his promise, saw to it that Paducah was given the opportunity to teach UK graduate engineering courses here in town by way of interactive video. Then 2 months later, again true to a promise, the university added a doctoral program in higher education here in Paducah. Those programs are housed at the Crisp Building, which is a $4 million gift which President Wethington also helped us to acquire. So in effect, Paducah will soon have a graduate program of its own, and we already have 2 programs at that facility. Secondly, in September of last year, when Paducah and McCracken County announced the Information Age Park, Charles Wethington came here, not just to offer congratulations and take part in festivities, but more importantly, to pledge the full support of the university in seeing to it that this park, a place that will bring jobs and economic prosperity to all of the Purchase area, would be a success. Through Dr. Wethington, the university has pledged the services of its departments, its programs, its library, its supercomputer, its research scientists. Moreover, through the university, Paducah Community College will staff the park's resource center and bring all forms of training and education to the residents of the park. Today, Dr. Wethington, amidst what must be a very busy schedule, has come to Western Kentucky once again to support us in a celebration and yet another effort to improve the educational and economic welfare of the Purchase. Please welcome the President of the University of Kentucky, Dr. Charles Wethington.
Thank you, Lynn. And if you will, if you note the program and find that I'm supposed to give an address this morning, if you will bear with me and will agree with me, I can shorten that from an address to some brief remarks, and we'll all get to a ribbon-cutting ceremony a little bit earlier here, but I would much prefer to do it that way. But I want to thank Lynn O'Hara for that fine introduction and for the leadership role that he's playing here at Paducah Community College. I think all of you join with me in expressing our appreciation to what he's doing to help lead this college at in a very important time in its history. To Ben Carr for the strong leadership he's expressing throughout the community college system, as you heard here this morning, and to Bill Houston, to Sandra Parks, and all of those in workforce development who are working for the good of education in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It is a day and a time, and it always is, but probably more so than ever when budgets get tight and times get tough, that we must work together to best utilize the state's resources to provide the kind of continued progress that we're seeing in education throughout the Commonwealth. We truly are doing that. That's reflected in the college going rates. That's reflected in KERA and the efforts we're making to reform elementary and secondary education. And it's reflected in some of these joint efforts between the University of Kentucky, Paducah Community College, and the Workforce Development Cabinet. I couldn't, of course, be up here this morning without adding my thanks to the rest of you, to Helen Garrett, to what she's done. And as you heard described this morning, it takes a person in some leadership role to be able to pull off a project such as this. Helen Garrett was that person. She had a lot of help from a lot of us, but she was the person that took this on as a cause and truly got it done. And Helen, we thank you for your strong leadership and your role in helping us get that accomplished. I also want to thank the late Senator Tom Garrett and the other members of the Garrett family for all you've meant to the University of Kentucky, to Paducah Community College in this Paducah region as you've worked on education and other economic development matters over the years. And truly that family is one which has been of strong importance to all of us as we've tried to develop this region educationally and economically. And to Tom Garrett, who's on the platform here today, Tom, I'm glad to see younger members of the Garrett family coming on and again have that same kind of strong commitment and dedication to support for all of us and what we're doing. To the General Assembly members, to Albert Jones and to Charlie Jevedon, to Bob Leeper and all of the others who worked, to Greg Higdon, who was in the Senate at that time. Let me add my appreciation and thanks to them for what you did to help us get this done. I was there working with Helen Garrett and others, and clearly in a supportive role, but I want you to know that the General Assembly members got this project done. We want to thank them for that. And as Al Jones pretty well stated, there is nothing wrong with the political process when it leads to good things like this West Kentucky Vocational School, this Paducah Community College, and this Helen Garrett Allied Health Center. Those are the kinds of things that ought to happen as a part of the political process and as we work for state funding for the support of all these institutions. This Allied Health facility, one which is here for the specific purpose to be a building to provide the space to allow the community college and the technical school to train personnel to go into good jobs and to support the health needs, to help meet the health needs of this Paducah region. That's a specific purpose of this school. Obviously, the classrooms that are here, the labs that are here, the programs that are here are designed to bring space for faculty to work and for students to attend and for people to get prepared for jobs, and then they in turn to go to better serve the healthcare needs of this Paducah area and this Paducah region. It's here, and I want to challenge our local administrators and we who are state administrators in some fashion to ensure that all the efforts of Helen Garrett and all the efforts of the rest of us who worked on this project, that they are not in vain, that this building is best used in the ways that we can best determine for the benefit of the Paducah region. That's why we have established this facility. That's why it's funded. And this kind of partnership that's led us up to this point must continue if the facility is going to be used in the best means possible over the years. Lynn O'Hara talked about the statewide role of UK, and you know my strong feeling of the fact that this is a statewide university, the principal statewide university, dedicated to the support and benefit of all Kentuckians. And that university is here for the people of the Commonwealth, the people in Lexington, the people in Paducah, the people in Paintsville, the people in Pikeville, the people in Somerset, wherever we may be in this state. The University of Kentucky is there to try to serve this Commonwealth in the best way that it can. Those instances that Lynn O'Hara and Ben and some of the others mentioned are kinds of things that the University of Kentucky can do. We can't be all things to all people, but we can ensure that the resources of the University of Kentucky are accessible, are available, that they are there for people in Paducah as they are for people in Lexington. So as we tie the community colleges, including Paducah, into the Commonwealth Library for access to some 2 million volumes of information that are there to serve this Commonwealth, as we bring graduate programs to West Kentucky, and as we take graduate programs into East Kentucky after we bring them to West Kentucky, through interactive television and through having people on the spot, as we work through our College of Engineering and other resources at the university for support for the Information Age Park and your endeavors here, as we try to work with you on economic development issues like the Avalos project. Those are the kinds of resources that the University of Kentucky can bring to bear in helping with some of the state's problems and some of the state's opportunities. So I simply want to commit to you that to the extent that I can, and to the extent that we have resources, that this university will continue to do as it's doing today, while I have something to do with it, in trying to serve this entire Commonwealth in every way that we can. We all know that there are budget shortfalls. We all know that times are tough. We all know there are things we cannot do when we don't have the dollars to do it. But the resources that are there and the resources that we have will be available to serve this entire Commonwealth of Kentucky. To talk about the community colleges just a second. You've heard and know what this college does and what it means to this region. But I can tell you it has a definite role to play in the economic development of every community in which the college is located. It simply does work strongly to prepare people to go into good jobs at the technical level, usually at the end of 2 years. And that's what this facility is specifically designed to do. It does involve itself, each community college, in the training and retraining for business and industry, working with workforce development, working with the Bluegrass State Skills Corporation. It has a very real role to play in the short-term training and retraining of business and industry in this Commonwealth. It does offer transfer opportunities for students. And if you heard Tom Garrett talk about his early days here at Paducah Community College, onto a baccalaureate degree, onto law school at the University of Kentucky, then you know that this is another very vital role for these community colleges to get students started into a college career, go on through a baccalaureate or professional degree, come back into the community, and thereby provide the kind of leadership that every community throughout the state desperately needs. These colleges then, too, are designed to be community education centers. And the kind of efforts that are ongoing here in Paducah that pull together the elementary and secondary schools, the workforce development operation, the community college program, and the University of Kentucky, this ought to be the focal point, and that's what you're making it, the focal point of education services for this area and this region, education services beyond the elementary and secondary level. And I'm strongly supportive of that community leadership role that these community colleges ought to be playing. We heard Gary talk about a minute ago another example that's coming along. This project probably caused people to think in the Middlesboro area about a way that we might serve the needs in Bell County. From Southeast Community College, from the vocational schools, vocational technical schools in that area. We have now a project approved in the 1990 session that will do something like this, not in the allied health field alone, but broadly serve the Bell County, Pineville, Middlesboro area that will be a joint effort between Southeast Community College and the state technical school operation. Again, I think you'll find that to be a much needed project and an excellent example of service to that region, really built upon the kind of foundation that we have prepared here, I think, at Paducah. I don't want to go without expressing my appreciation. We mentioned the private fundraising that had to be done here to get this project underway, and I see him sitting back there, but as you all well know, I want to thank Fred Paxton for the role he played in helping us with the private fundraising to get this project underway. And Fred, we do express our appreciation to you for that, and to my favorite board member in the Paducah area and region, Bob Merriweather, who's sitting there next to him. You need to know from me that Bob Merriweather is always working with me and the University of Kentucky and insisting upon the University of Kentucky's not forgetting about Paducah when it talks about service to the rest of the Commonwealth too. So to both of you gentlemen, I much appreciate that. So for this morning, as a final note, to say thank you again to Helen Garrett, not just for this project, because as important as this project is, but for the long years of service that she and her late husband, Tom Garrett, provided and still do provide in the person of Helen Garrett to the University of Kentucky and Paducah Community College. I want to thank you, Helen, for what you've done. I want to encourage you to get well quickly because there are other projects that we need to work on.
Thank you, Dr. Wethington, for those words from our flagship university. We at PCC and West Kentucky Tech pledged to make this experiment work because we know that it is the wave of the future in post-secondary education. in the state of Kentucky. Dr. Parks and I want you to feel free to call on us if there's anything we can do to encourage others to become involved in a project like this one. If the audience would please stand and join the Paducah Community College Community Chorus in singing My Old Kentucky Home.
The sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the children are gay. The corn comes ripe and the meadows in the bloom, while the birds make music all the day. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all merry, all happy and bright. By and by, hard times comes a knocking at the door, and my old Kentucky home, good night. Weep no more, my lady. Oh, weep no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home. For my old Kentucky home, far away.
Please be seated. We have come close to the end. We have one or two more thanks to make, and then the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Commissioner Warrensjohl gave Lynn O'Hara and myself credit for coming back here and figuring out how to do the day-to-day operation of this building. And we'd be kind of pompous and insincere if we didn't acknowledge the real people who are making this building work. That's Jeannie Lasowski, stand up Jeannie, and Barbara Veazey and their staffs who live in this building and work out things on a day-to-day basis. We thank you.
I also want to thank the people who planned today, and the two most responsible, although there were many, are Karen Odom from PCC and Beverly Harris from West Kentucky Tech. Thank you both.